And that Sunday morning of the final round, still thinking we weren't going, Tim emails and says, okay, it's done. Give me your info. Max Homa just kicked you guys 2 tickets. So thank you, Max Homa, for our fun day at the US Open. It was amazing. We got to follow Ricky. It was a little sad not to see him win, but Max had a blast. He brought a sign for Ricky that he held all day when we were walking around. The sign said, after watching my dad's golf swing, I'm pretty sure Ricky is my real father.
Good morning, listener, or maybe good night, depending on which side of the world you're on. As you might be able to see, I am still in India, hanging out here underneath a tree right now because it's raining. I'm about 50 kilometers away from the wettest place on earth, so it's always raining, as it turns out. I hope to bring you some video from the renowned Shillong golf course later on this week. So we'll see if the rain lets up enough for me to at least go out and try to see if I can putt on one of their greens. A little golf recap from the weekend as normal. The U.S. Women's Open was held at Pebble Beach, which I know is on a bucket list for both me and Robby to be able to go out and play. Maybe we'll see if we can break some scores. The winner was Allison Corpuzzi or Corpuzzi. I don't know.
Corpus.
She Italian name? Corpus.
Nope. From Hawaii.
From Hawaii. All right. Nice.
Yeah, she's U.S.
I have been unplugged this week, limited Wi-Fi access over here in India. And then the PGA Tour at the John Deere Classic, where the winner was Sepp Straka. He shot a 62 in his final round. Sorry, I'm reading these notes live right now. A 62 with a double bogey. So imagine if he hadn't done that, probably would have been a course record or something like that. Nice win for there.
Absolutely. Jonathan, let me a couple of notes on that. So Allison, I mean, US Open, it was beautiful, right? They're playing at Pebble.
Yeah, of course.
They did an incredible job. First time the women have gotten to play the US Open there. But for Allison, it was her first LPGA win, obviously first major then. But she kind of dominated. I think she ended up 8 or 9 under for the week, and I think only maybe 8 players ended up under par. U.S. Opens are always set up pretty tough, but she played really well, and U.S. Open got an American winning it. That was pretty cool. But no, Sepp Straka, I did turn that on yesterday. I saw some tweets. Hey, you got to check this out. It's he might go 59 here. I think he shot an incredible round on the front, and then he's on the back, and I catch him like 3 holes to go. He needed to birdie one of his last 2 or 3 holes. Comes to a par 5, 17, and they said he's birdied this every day. He ends up parring it because he put his second shot in a bunker. But then he gets to the last hole, perfect drive, and he just pulls his maybe 7-iron or something like that and puts it in the water. And so he ends up double bogeying it. And that brought, I mean, he had a 4-shot lead or something at that point. That brought things closer. There were some guys that were within, that were still out on the course, but he was able to hold on to win. Not a playoff this week. So congrats to Sepp Straka. Yep.
Not a playoff, but it just goes to show you how frustrating golf has got to be for everybody who ever picks up a club.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, this week, because of some schedule changes and things like that, if you're a listener and you're watching on YouTube or anything, you'll notice my face won't be on the podcast. But Robby, why don't you tell us who we're going to be listening to this week? I'm really disappointed. This guy, oh man, he sounds so interesting.
Jonathan, this week on the Whole Story podcast, we are fortunate to have a good friend of Michael Whelan. We had him on a few weeks ago. Incredible story. The guy that helped build the Golf Channel, right? And this guy, Tucker Booth, that I'm about to introduce, Michael befriended, and they've become really good friends. But Tucker is a writer. He's done a ton of different things. I guess Michael first introduced us. He said, hey, you got to read this article that my friend Tucker wrote about me. So we kind of learned Michael's story before we did his interview. The article is called I Built a Masterpiece and Then I Fell Apart. Really documents Michael's story. It was incredible. Highly recommend you go read it. But, you look at Tucker's bio and it says he's a rapper, right? So unless one of our other guests haven't told us something, this is going to be our first rapper on the show. So I'm excited that we've got Tucker coming on. I'll be interviewing him tomorrow, but when you all see this, it'll be put together. So Jonathan, we'll have Tucker Booth as our guest this week on the Whole Story podcast. All right. Well, joining us today on the Whole Story podcast, we have Tucker Booth. Tucker, I appreciate you joining us. Taking the time. You are an incredibly busy guy, so I appreciate you being here.
Well, I like to say I'm incredibly busy, Robby, but honestly, if I had it my way, I would just sit around and watch Netflix 13, 14 hours a day. But yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for being flexible with your time. Happy
Sure.
to be here.
Yeah, well, Netflix offers plenty to watch, and they've got some great sports documentaries. I might have a question about that here in a
Sure.
second, but Tucker, we were introduced through a mutual friend, a new friend to us, but a guy named Michael Whelan. We had him on our podcast a few weeks back now. He was nice enough to join us. I see a guy on his Twitter bio that says, did HBO Sports and helped start the golf channel. I reach out to him. He was kind enough to join our podcast, and through him, he introduced us to you. One of the things that he mentioned or pointed out was this is the guy that kind of wrote my story and called "I Built a Masterpiece and Then I Fell Apart," which I'll ask you about in a second. But when I'm looking up Tucker Booth on Twitter, one of the things I see is you are a rapper. And like I mentioned to Jonathan, I don't know, maybe one of our guesters hasn't told us, but you're probably the first rapper that we've had on our podcast. So maybe just give us a quick background on that.
Well, I'm proud to be the pioneer for rap on your podcast. Um, I am 44 years old. I grew up in the golden era of rap and hip hop and alt rock as well. And I've always been a performer. I started singing when I was born, piano at 7, guitar at 10, singing in bands shortly thereafter. And I also was an aspiring stand-up comedian from the time I was a child as well, literally doing stand-up on stage in front of grown audiences by the time I was 10. So I've had a lot of performance experience. And when I was singing in rock bands in high school, whenever we do the breakdowns and everybody get a solo, what does the singer do as the solo? And I was listening to all this great hip hop from the 80s and 90s, and I thought, well, I'll freestyle. I'll just rap or I'll make up some singing lines, but just come off the top of the head. And that turned into an obsession with rap that extended far beyond that. As a young man, I started a record label in St. Louis, Missouri with my best friend, and we cranked out 50 original independent rap and hip hop albums for ourselves and others. I became a rap freestyle battle champion, which has extended over a 15-year period. I've won 12 freestyle rap battle championships in 4 states in 15 years. And I'm still in the studio making rap music this very week for a new project that drops July 31st with some LA friends. Be on the lookout for Jupiter Classics, our new rap group, coming out soon. So I guess the answer is I just got into it because it was one of a million things that appealed to my creative sensibilities. I love the freedom of freestyle. I love rap as a conduit to kind of use humor and socio-political ideology to get the message out. People seem to listen to you more when you do it than if you're just ranting and raving. And I feel like that has kind of, in a weird way, spoken to the golf world as well, because like you say, there aren't that many rappers in the golf world. But I'll tell you, my podcast, Rappers Don't Golf, is kind of ironic, really, because plenty of rappers want to golf. I don't know how many golfers want to rap, but plenty of rappers want to golf. And I've surely met plenty of them. And I feel like it's kind of a good way for me to break the ice with a lot of these golf folks.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you've got the podcast called Rappers Don't Golf. I mean, what is the blend besides just there's interest on both sides and what each other does, but how did Rappers Don't Golf come about?
Well, nowadays I'm calling it my Trojan horse for breaking into the golf world.
Okay.
Because I had become pretty fascinated with golf over the last 15 years or so. And I've been a writer as well. That's one of the things I'd done on the side. I'd written for a bunch of different websites, mostly writing reviews of music or socio-political type stuff based on what was going on in the world. And I'd started to do sports, and I'd done some profiles similar to what I wrote with Mike Whelan, although very kind of rough, crude versions of this. And I wanted to write about golf, but I wanted to write about golf from a truly unfiltered freestyle battle champ kind of perspective. And so I thought it'd be good to start a podcast. And I didn't want the podcast to just be about golf. And I make that very clear that it's not just a golf podcast, but I've had lots of golf people come on it. And it was really a joke because I had all these battle rappers see that I was starting to get into golf online, and they kept going, "What's with all this golf crap? Rappers don't golf, man. Rappers aren't golfers. Why are you wasting all your time on golf? You should be rapping." And so it was kind of really just kind of a joke and kind of a needle that I threw at these rap guys, that rappers don't golf with Tucker Booth for sure. So that was kind of where the name came from. But I got a few big name guests that came on, and it was very organic. The first one was Rick Riley, the great golf writer.
Yeah.
And Rick is a neighbor of mine. I live in Redondo Beach and he lives in Hermosa. And just very serendipitously, I got hired by his wife to play piano and guitar at a Christmas party at their house. And I got introduced to Rick. He's like, "Hey, I'm Rick. How you doing?" I go, "I know who you are, man. I've been reading your articles for years." And that kind of created a friendship. And it got me an interview with him when his book Commander in Chief came out about Trump and golf. And that interview started making other golf people of note from that world be willing to come and talk to me just based on the strength of his name. And so I call it the Trojan horse, because every time I get another big name golf guest to come on the show, whether it be Golf Channel folks, CBS, NBC people, major champions, whoever it is, I can say, "Hey, next potential guest I'd like, look at all the people that I've worked with and been on the show. Would you like to come on?" And all it's done is kind of get me through these doors so that I can meet the people that I've met, which has indeed led me to Mike Whelan for sure. And then eventually to Lisa Cornwell and the book that just came out, and all this other writing opportunity.
Sure. So in your podcast experience, I mean, you've noticed you've got what, a couple hundred episodes, or you've been doing it for a while now. What advice do you give to guys breaking into the podcast world? I mean, I think this is episode 16 for us. We're having a ball with it. Just loving telling golf stories and meeting new people. What podcast advice do you have for somebody like us?
Well, this is going to sound like some straight punk rock star stuff, but the thing that has worked for me the best is to just not care what other people think and go off your instincts and break all the rules that you feel should be broken, and really just do your best to find it a natural voice that's yours. When people try and copy other people and sound like whoever their influences are, it comes off really hokey and cheesy to me. And I've been guilty of this in the past. So let me be clear. This is some of the advice I got when I started rapping. I remember my best bud, who was my mentor, said, "You're a great rapper, but you got to get rid of this New York accent. Why you sound like you're from New York when you start rapping, Tucker? You're not. You're from the West Coast. Sound like you are who you are. We don't need to hear you do your Wu-Tang Clan impression. Just be yourself." I think that's good advice for podcasters. I also think the thing is, so many people play it safe with the questions they ask, and they try not to offend their guests. And granted, I'm not saying ask all the most personally invasive questions you could ask, but be bold, ask tough questions. When you're doing your homework, which you definitely should do, be sure that you find the big issues that these people have dealt with, and don't be afraid to lean into those questions. And don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions that are also tough to answer, because I think they respect you more if you truly ask the tough questions and are fair about it. Sure. and let them have their say. So I guess that's where I go with it. The last piece of advice is, people are going to criticize no matter what you do. Take the criticism that's valid and process it. And if it doesn't seem like it's reasonable, just let it go as quick as possible. Don't defend, just flush it and move on.
Yeah. Now, Jonathan and I, we talk about it all the time. Like, we started doing this one because we get to hang out. He's in Augusta, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. And so it gives us an opportunity to hang out, it gets us an opportunity to meet new and interesting people, hear golf stories, which we love talking about golf. And but yeah, so it's fun. Like, we're not going to be the, hey, let's talk about the latest breaking news and, completely recap the latest tournament. Yeah, we'll give a highlight or shout out to, the U.S. Women's Open champ and whoever else won a tournament. But man, we just want to talk to people and have and just tell good golf stories. So that's what we're looking at doing. But we'd kind of reference this. You wrote an article about Michael called whereas I built a masterpiece and then I fell apart. One, it's a great read. So well done on that. And I recommend it to everybody to read it. Michael deals with his history of producing sports, creating the Golf Channel, and then kind of the breakdown of mental health, depression, all the stuff, his exit from the Golf Channel and cancer, things he's been dealing with. And so how do you, and I guess now you've written the book with Lisa Cornwell about, her issues and just the things she dealt with and the struggles with the Golf Channel and just things like that. How do you dig in, or how do you take the mess of something like what Michael and what Lisa were dealing with and then put that into words? Like, how do you process it and then be able to deal with it, one, internally, because you kind of take a lot of that on yourself, but then put it into words and make something written?
Great question. It's not easy, as you might imagine. I think what motivates me is being able to really connect with my subjects that I'm writing about, and not just connect on a basic level, but really connect like a brother or a close friend. And whether we end up staying close friends forever or not, we at least need to have that kind of connection during the process. So first, I really got to get to know them, care about them, love them, and also see them for what they truly are, good, bad, and otherwise. And that's tough because everybody wants to get a fair shake when they're being written about. They want their strengths to be played up. They want their weaknesses to be smoothed out and eliminated. And as a biographer and a journalist, what I'm telling them is we have to make this as balanced as possible when it comes to what we're putting out there about you. Because if you've had tough stuff in your life, like Mike's had to deal with, like Lisa's had to deal with, like the new lady I'm writing about is having to deal with, you can't just avoid it. You can't go Pollyanna. You can't pretend like these people are just hapless victims of circumstance. We all get where we get by making great decisions and terrible decisions. In fact, that's what I say about everybody. Whenever I'm arguing with people, I say, most people I know, including myself, are great and terrible at the same time. And as a writer, you have to be able to highlight those great moments and those terrible moments and somehow make the reader still care about the person they're reading about. Because if you make them look too terrible, obviously people aren't going to care. Or if you make them look too great, they're not going to believe that you're being authentic. So that's really what we have to do, is kind of this negotiating process, this push and pull with the subject, where I say, obviously we need to talk about these great accomplishments that you've done. Mike Whelan, you got all the way to the top at HBO Sports. You got to produce all of these amazing sporting events all over the world, boxing, tennis, Olympics, so on and so forth. You created the Golf Channel. You built it out of your own mind, and you're a genius. And we surely need to put a lot of spotlight on that. But you also had mental health issues that cost you your career. And you also went through suicidal stuff. And you also went through drugs and alcohol abuse. And you went through cancer battles and other stuff that was really, really hard and ugly to deal with. So we have to be able to show both of these things and make a compassionate portrait of, here's the real guy that's kind of in the middle of all this, trying to deal with it. And it's kind of ditto to Lisa. Lisa dealt with a lot of stuff coming up in her life, and obviously a lot of issues at Golf Channel that are still ongoing, even after she's left. And it's having to say that, hey, I obviously made mistakes along the way. I was not blameless and flawless in all this. However, I make some really good points, and they're still valid no matter how much I've screwed up. And that's equally, if not more important, for people to focus on as the message of this book. So I hope that answered it well, but it's really kind of just trying to humanize these people and make a complete picture of what makes them great and what makes them terrible.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of what you've got to do is build the trust, right? Like, I've been in sales for a long time in my career, and everything I tell people, everything's sales, right? So there's a process of building that trust. Whether you're, hey, let's figure out where we're going to dinner, or hey, let's talk about this book deal, and you trusting me to write your story and get that message across. So, well, one, congratulations on being a published author. I know that's a pretty cool thing. Do you have any other, you've done the biography thing, with the articles and the book, and you mentioned being doing comedy and stuff, any comedic books or anything like that in the future?
Well, there's a couple books that are on the direct horizon. The first is one that I'm not at liberty to
Sure.
disclose the name or the subject matter for, but I can say that it's a woman that I met through Lisa Cornwell and word of mouth from her book. And it also deals with matters that involve the PGA Tour. And it's even more explosive than Lisa's. In fact, this subject matter I think most people would find shocking
Hmm.
and very suspenseful kind of stuff. This almost is like a real life thriller that's still ongoing. So we are currently writing the proposal for this book. We've already had interest expressed in it, and we fully expect to be off and running with a book deal soon. I also wrote my own book during the shutdown that I started in 2020 and have just kind of written on my own for the last 3 years. I didn't write a proposal. I just wrote this to kind of save myself from the insanity of that time. And I am now preparing to start actively selling this book as well. So that is a memoir of my own life. And I wouldn't exactly call it comedic, but there are some funny moments in it. But I would call this more of a wild man on the road, fear and loathing in Las Vegas kind of book. But I do have a couple others that I'm got outlined, including a graphic novel with my son that I've been writing with my 13-year-old about anthropomorphic animals that golf in the Oregon woods. So that might be a little bit more entertaining for folks that aren't looking for a hard-hitting biography like the ones that I've been writing, and then a few other books as well. We'll see. I'm still doing stand-up out here in LA. I don't put a ton of footage online, but be on the lookout. You can look at my Twitter if you want to find some comedy clips. And I'm still putting out music, so that's always going on. And I like to infuse my humor in that as much as I can.
Sure. Well, Michael, he and I in our conversations, and I don't know. I'm sure you would attest to it as well. Has given you some good advice over the years since y'all built that friendship. What would you say is the best piece of advice from a professional standpoint that Michael has offered up?
So many from Mike, and again, thank you, Michael Whelan, for all of your mentorship and creative input. I wouldn't be where I am without Mike for sure. Some of the best advice I ever got about writing was, of course, as a TV guy, he said anything you write, you should write with the mindset of the reader watching it on a movie screen or a TV screen. He said you need to write in pictures. You need to write in a way that easily allows the reader to visualize what's going on. And again, he said, think of it like you're watching what you're writing on a movie screen and make it that vivid and that visual for the reader. Because especially nowadays, with multimedia being what it is, books don't seem to have the same pull that maybe they used to, especially with a lot of younger folks. So if you're wanting to get them to care, writing in a very vivid way is important. And now I'll go to Lisa. Lisa said that, she was kind of the reporter in this biography that we wrote. She reported all the facts. She had all the receipts. She had been through all these experiences. And she said, I was more the storyteller. And she said, I kind of painted the picture. And I'd like to think that that's Mike's influence, that painting the picture is making everything she said and went through very exciting, visual, vivid for the reader. So I'll give it up. I think that's Mike's best advice that he's given. He's given plenty of other advice as well, but I'll go with that one.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, kind of shifting gears a little bit, you mentioned your son, and I think I saw a tweet or something. I can't remember what it was, but you able to take your son to the U.S. Open recently out in L.A.?
Yes, yeah. Max is 13. Shout out Max, and he is 1,000 times the golfer that I'll ever be.
Okay.
So definitely be on the lookout for Max Booth somewhere down the road. I imagine he might put his stamp on the game somewhere. But yeah, he and I have started a tradition that goes back to 2018, which is going to the tournaments when they come to town. And in 2018, if you recall, that was one of Tiger's comebacks, the comeback that eventually led to the real comeback. But he was coming off his back procedure and he was playing at the Genesis Open. And that was, I believe, his second tournament back after his return, or maybe his first. I can't remember. It was right there in that first window. So Max and I went to the Genesis that Thursday morning. I sprung him out of school, which thrilled him. And I said, if we're going to get close to Tiger, we got to get there at dawn, man. We got to get there before everybody and be staked out. And Tiger had a 7 a.m. tee time. So we got there. We were on the tee when he was there. we were following along. We got up close and personal with him throughout the round. Every time he went into the woods or whatever, we were there standing by him. And it created this just love affair with going to these tournaments for Max. And part of it was the PGA Tour photographed him and Tiger and put it up on their Instagram page.
Oh,
and
wow.
he became an instant meme. But yeah, so every year for Genesis Open, we're there. If other tournaments come to town, we try and go. But this year, I tried to pull some strings. Tickets were so expensive that I was going, I don't know if I really want to spring this much to take him. I don't care that much. But we love Ricky Fowler and Max and our whole family. We're all humongous Ricky fans. I'd say we're bigger Ricky fans than just about anybody. And when Ricky was really in contention, I started putting it out there online like, all right, SOS, who can help? Somebody's got to know somebody. And I hit up some friends, and shout out to my friend Keith Hirschland. I had hit up Keith because I knew he knew some folks. And he said, I'm sorry, I pulled every string and I can't make it happen. And just when I'd given up hope, he tagged me on Twitter under a comment thread where it was a caddy friend that both of us knew, Tim K. So shout out to Tim. Tim had caddy for these pros, and he said, if anybody's looking for tickets, I might be able to get some pros to kick me some. So I DM'd him saying my son and I'd like to go. And that Sunday morning of the final round, still thinking we weren't going, Tim emails and says, okay, it's done. Give me your info. Max Homa just kicked you guys 2 tickets. So thank you, Max Homa, for our fun day at the US Open. It was amazing. We got to follow Ricky. It was a little sad not to see him win, but Max had a blast. He brought a sign for Ricky that he held all day while we were walking around. The sign said, after watching my dad's golf swing, I'm pretty sure Ricky is my real father. That got him picked up on the Full Swing season 2 television series, which of course thrilled him again. So that was his win of the day. So be looking for Max on season 2 of Full Swing coming soon.
Very nice. Well, Max Homa helping out Max Booth. What a story, man. That's awesome. So, going to golf tournaments, that's cool. And Jonathan and I keep talking about playing golf is great. You might have your best score, whatever. It's really like the stories come from who you get to do this with, right? Who you get to play with, who you get to go to a tournament with. So really cool that you and your son get to do that whenever they come out that direction. So yeah, that's a cool story. And we'll be looking out for them on Full Swing. So that'll be a lot of fun. So do you get to play golf much?
These days it is just so rare that I get to play anything except for an occasional round of mini golf. We just finally went and played mini golf with my folks the other day. I still do love to play mostly with Max when I can. But it has been really hard. And granted, the reason why is Max is also a great baseball player and has put his whole heart and soul into getting ready to try out for high school. He's going into 8th grade, so he's got one more year before high school, and his goal is to make the high school team at Redondo Beach High School, which is an incredibly competitive baseball team.
Okay.
So he plays Little League, he plays club ball. He pretty much plays 6-7 days a week, and however many games we can get in every week. I've been helping as an assistant coach for years, and am surely Team Booth within the bigger teams. He and I train together every day. I'm driving in as much as he is. So we put a lot of time into the baseball swing more than the golf swing. That being said, the backup plan is if for whatever reason he doesn't make the Redondo Beach High School baseball team, golf is surely something he wants to still pursue on the team, and we think he's got a real shot there. So I would say we've talked about it, and when he gets home, he's at summer camp right now. We're going to get out and play some rounds later this summer and get back into a semi-consistent routine of hitting balls at least every week and getting a round or 2 in a month.
Yeah. Is there a good local course that you guys try to get out to?
Well, we used to go to the lakes at El Segundo, but that's now turned into a Top Golf. So fun to go to Top Golf, not the greatest place to train. I'll give some shout outs. We got Alondra Golf Course, which is just a local muni that is cheap and is big and is challenging. We've also got Westchester Golf Course nearby, which is nice because it's got a variety of sizes of holes. You got 5s, 4s, and 3s over 18. So we go there, and he's done camps there for years. And then the last one is Chester, Washington, which is kind of more in the hood. It's kind of in West Athens. It's an early golf course I know Charlie Sifford used to play at. In fact, I have Charlie Sifford way there. I know Tiger had played it over the years. Chester, Washington's a big golf course. It's right in the middle of the hood. It's over kind of by SoFi Stadium. We love going there. We've had some fun stories, and I think that's probably where we're going to go train, just because you can always get on there, and it kind of feels more like a slice of city life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we always try to ask, like, what is the best shot or most memorable golf shot that you've ever hit? Any hole-in-ones or anything?
Never had a hole in one, come close a few times. In fact, I'll tell you 2 stories I can think of. One's a good one and one's a not so good one. Good one is I was playing around in Manhattan Beach with a friend of mine. This is early on when I was just learning. He was a personal trainer and a motivational speaker guy. And we got to the water hole. It's about like 170, got to hit it over water. It basically dares you to either lay up to the right or go right at the pin and dare the water. And I get up and I'm going to go dare the hole and I'm going for it. And I shank the first ball. It doesn't even reach the water, just squirts sideways 20 feet. And I'm totally defeated and frustrated. And I walk off in a huff going, I'm not even going to play this hole. And my motivational speaker friend goes, man, if you don't get up there and take another swing, you'll never know what's possible. You got to try. If you don't ever try, you'll never know what you're capable of. So I pull a longer club. I pull a 3-iron for a 170. I take the smoothest swing I can. This ball majestically flies through the air, drops, trickles over to the pin, and stops 10 inches from the hole. It was almost, I guess you'd call that a hole in 3.
Yeah, that would have been a good par.
Plus a drop. Almost a hole in 3. And he turns to me and goes, Steve, that's what happens when you take that swing. So good on him. If you don't keep trying, you'll never know. And I was surely not going to take that swing without him cajoling me into doing it. Then the not so fun story is fun for Max, not for me. We're back at Chester, Washington, another water hole, about 100 yards over water to the fairway. Max gets up first in front of a packed gallery of people waiting. He pulls a hybrid, hits a pretty good sky ball, but it looks like it's not quite going to make it. And it hits the water and skips twice like a rock on a pond and shoots onto the fairway. Everybody's impressed. Max throws his hands up. Oh my God, I can't believe the kid did that. Oh my gosh. I get up to follow him and immediately shank a ball sideways. And I splash the air in frustration with my club, not chucking it, but just slashing the air. But my hands are sweaty. And the club slips out of my hands and flies out into the street onto Vermont Avenue. And as I'm praying to God that it doesn't hit a car or something, Max has got the whole thing on video camera.
Oh, that's funny.
Thankfully, it did not hurt anybody. It did not hit any cars. I did have the club break in half as a result of this. But every single time we pass that hole on our way to the batting cages over there, Max goes, you remember that day, Dad? You remember when I hit that ball over the water and then you threw your club in the street? So good reminder, even if you slash your club in the air, probably not the wisest idea. Probably good to just stay more chill than that.
Yeah, I wonder how many clubs have ended up on that street before. Maybe not, or maybe only one. So that's great. Very nice. Well, let me ask you this. We do this thing called a quick 9, where we kind of do a rapid fire. You can expound on any of these questions you want, but let me just roll through some of these. So what is question 1, what is the favorite course that you've ever played?
Well, I can't say that I've played that many courses in my life, but I'd say that my favorite course that I've ever gotten to be on and take a couple swings on is Olympic Club up in San Fran. I got to go up for the U.S. Women's Open. Shout out to Lisa Cornwell and Sarah Kemp for getting me that opportunity. So that's a super impressive course. Torrey's obviously very impressive course. I've never had the pleasure of playing Pebble yet, but I got friends up there saying that they want to get me on there. But besides, obviously, the great courses out here in California, I really can only say these courses that I've played because they have been the most impressive ones that I've gotten to play. Yeah, I'd say the original Lakes at El Segundo that I already referenced, it was just a 9-hole. It had 2 par 4s, the rest were 3s, but that's where I learned to play.
Yeah.
And I love that course, especially because my original mentor was a guy, Bill Wright, who's now passed on, but was the very first man of color to win a PGA sponsored event. In 1959, Bill Wright got won an event, and basically won his way onto the PGA Tour. So shout outs to Bill Wright, rest in peace, for being there to help mentor me in the early days.
That's awesome. Yeah, no short courses, 9-hole courses, those are great. You talk to Jonathan, he's ready to quit after about 11 or 12 anyway. So,
Dude,
but you know, they're a lot of fun. So, you've probably already answered this. Ricky Fowler, is he your favorite pro golfer?
I mean, obviously everybody loves Tiger Woods. If it wasn't for Tiger, I wouldn't have even cared enough to keep watching. And
Right.
watching him win the Masters in 2019 was special. And I woke Max up at 6 in the morning because I said, "This is history, man. You're gonna want to watch this." And that was really wonderful to watch. But yeah, we love Ricky. Over the years, we've I'd say the only people we really pulled for hard were Tiger, Bubba Watson, and Ricky. And say what you will about Live Tour, nowhere near as much fun for me to watch these guys playing on Live as it is on the PGA. So Ricky's kind of last of the Mohicans out there, man. Now that Tiger's barely playing too, and what a great story this year for Ricky. I could see it coming. I think a lot of people could, but when we were at Genesis this year, we walked around with Ricky's group the entire way, and Max brought another sign. That sign said, "Tiger's great and all, but Ricky is my spirit animal." And that was so noticeable that all of Ricky's family kind of descended on us, and we got to walk with them through the whole round, grandmas and grandpas and his mom and dad. And speaking with Rod Fowler, I would say, I told him, I said, "This is the kind of guy that you want to teach your son to play like, especially the way he composes himself on the golf course, the way he treats the fans, the way he acts mature, even
Yeah.
when you could tell it's really beating him up." I said, "This is the guy." And Rod said, "I'm so proud that he's been able to set the kind of example he set and inspire the people the way he has." And I told him back then at Genesis, I said, "I'm telling you, he's going to win again, Rod, and probably more than once." So now that he finally won at the Rocket Mortgage, I have every expectation that he's going to go kick some butt over there in Scotland, and
Yeah.
maybe even nab a Open Championship while he's at it too.
Yep. No, as soon as, I mean, yeah, like you following this year, I think everybody can see it. Swing changes, mental games back. Like he's primed to win. It was awesome. My son and I are big Ricky fans as well. And it's fun to watch. And I mentioned to him afterwards, and I think he even posted online, watch out for Ricky in the Open. Like he might come in there and get his first major. It'll be a lot of fun. So you need to add Max Homa to the list of that favorite pro golfer thing now, especially being an LA guy, right?
I gotta say, I've always liked Max and I've always been a fan, but boy, when he hooked it up the way he did, Max, you were on my list. Hey, Kevin Kisner also got us tickets to the Genesis, so shout outs to Kiz and Max Homa for being awesome too.
Yeah, Kisner, he's a guy from Aiken here in South Carolina. So yeah, I mean there's so many good guys to cheer for. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, we try to ask this every time. Favorite snack on the course. Do you got any kind of snacks that you like while out on the golf course?
Well, you can never go wrong with almonds. I'm a big almonds guy. Salted almonds, good. Or I guess I should probably lay off the salt, but good bag of almonds out there is good for me. I try not to eat too much on the course. I kind of one of these guys like to play on a light stomach and then eat when I'm done. But I'll go with that. If I'm doing any other snacks, it's usually just like a protein bar or something. I'm kind of boring like that, man. But protein bars, almonds, maybe a Diet Coke if I'm feeling frisky. I don't drink
There
when
you
I'm
go.
on. So I don't like to lose my. I don't like to lose my mental sharpness. So I'll just go with Diet Coke and almonds, man.
Okay. All right. You being a music guy, do you like music on the course? What is the music you're listening to if you do?
It's funny because I'm not only a music guy, I'm a baseball DJ for all these little league games that has become entirely obsessed with the musical element of inspiring people during sporting events. But when I golf, I don't really play much music. I think it's the same deal as I don't want to feel distracted and I don't feel like it pumps me up that much when I'm there. So I usually go kind of quiet. But if I were, your personal DJ, your music caddy for year round, I would go with a real wide blend, and I mean wide. I love so many different kinds of music. You really would probably hear a different type of music each song. But I love classic rock. I love old R&B and soul. I love jazz and blues from the very far past to the present. I love 80s and 90s alt rock, the great hip hop of yesterday and today, and rap music too. I try to stay current with the stuff. I got my ear to current pop music as well. And we might even hear some classical in there for all you know. I mean, that's seriously how I roll, man. I will
Yeah.
straight throw the kitchen sink at you, world music works its way in. You might hear some stuff in Espanol. You never know with me, man. All I can say is if it's hot, if it's great, I will play it.
Yep. We are similar. We kind of shuffle through a little bit of everything. It's a lot of fun. So if you could play golf, let's say a dream foursome, living, passed on, who would be in your dream golf foursome?
Wow. I've been asked versions of this question. Let me see. I'll go with Tupac Shakur, Robert Kennedy Jr., uh, Bob Dylan, and Elon Musk. There we go. Let's roll.
There you go. Quite an interesting group there. All right. Is there, if you could pick a course, let's say top of a bucket list, where would it be? And I know a lot of people will say Augusta National or something like that, but we had somebody say, we need a realistic bucket list, but if you could pick anywhere to play, where would that group play?
Well, I know this is a hot choice these days, but I am originally from Portland, Oregon. I've been to the dunes many times up in Bandon. I've drove dune buggies over them as a kid. Never played the golf course. I've got friends to caddy there. Shout out to Jerry Lee. It would be really awesome to play Bandon. So if anybody would love to make that dream come true, hit me up. I will gladly come and play music and guitar and shine your ball cap and whatever else you need me to do to make that happen.
Yeah, Bandon is definitely on the bucket list. It seems like an amazing place. You watch people on Twitter, social media, and everything. Like you just have an unreal thing. So, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I hope you can get up there. So,
I think that'll happen. I'm fully confident before I kick the bucket, I'm gonna make it up there.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. If you could pick one of these guests, and you might get clued into, I got some info on this. If you could pick one of these guests to be on your podcast, who would it be? Tiger Woods, LeBron James, or I hear you're a big St. Louis Rams fan, so how about Kurt Warner? Which of those three would be on your podcast?
I love all these people, but it wouldn't even be close. I've even invited Kurt before. I just watched American Underdog again the other night with a friend of mine who was visiting from St. Louis. And I'm one of these people because I've lived in LA for 15 years. I was thrilled when the Rams came back to town. I'm not like my St. Louis fam and friends that are bitter about the divorce. So I love this new Rams team. Love the championship that we just had out here. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, the whole gang. But there is nobody that ranks higher on my list of favorite athletes, period, than Kurt Warner. By far, my hero. Just a wonderful example of perseverance, being a good guy.
Yeah.
And everybody who knows him, that I know who knows him, says he's exactly like what you'd imagine him to be. I got friends out in Scottsdale that have worked for years at a restaurant that he consistently frequents. I go, please tell me this guy's a good tipper. They go, he's the best tipper. I go, there's nothing about this guy I can find that makes me think any less of him. And if you haven't seen American Underdog, I watched it for the second time and I'm crying in every scene of this film. And I'm a huge curmudgeon. I'm the world's worst critic of film, and I absolutely love it. And my biggest thing I could say about the movie is I was so afraid it was going to stink or be cheesy and that it would tarnish my hero's legacy somehow. Just like Kurt, it exceeded all expectations once again. So it would definitely have to be Kurt.
Okay. Well, if any of the listeners that frequent the Whole Story podcast happen to know Kurt Warner, tell him he has got an open invitation to golf or Rappers Don't Golf podcast with Tucker.
Man, that would make my day. I would probably be entirely too emotional to even do the interview, but it would make my day.
Yep. All right. I got two more, and I'm borrowing these from a podcast that you know well. What is the biggest regret in your personal or professional life?
Oh, hit me with my own sauce.
Your own questions. Here we go.
That is a Mike Whelan question, by the way. He said no interview would be complete without asking this question. So good on you for being a great interviewer there. There are a lot of regrets. I love these people who go, I don't have any regrets. If I hadn't done everything I've done, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Okay. I got a lot of regrets. Lots. I would say probably my biggest regret today is that I didn't finish my college education. I went to school for 5 years before I was invited to leave by the administration. And I never went back. Just decided that was good enough. I was moving on. I definitely got an education over 5 years. I didn't waste all my time there. but I wish I would have finished. And I guess I'd say that because I wish I would have finished, because the only thing that was keeping me from finishing over those 5 years was screwing around and wasting time and partying and chasing girls and all the stuff that gets in the way of being more on the ball. I wish I would have finished school. And if Max, if you're listening, get your college degree. Kids, if you're out there, get it done. And do it mainly because it teaches you how to work hard and that process early. It took me till I was almost 30 or maybe even older before I really learned how to work hard. And those that go to college and do it right, you learn that skill by the time you're in your early 20s.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. My son and Jonathan's oldest just graduated high school. My son's heading off to college in a month and a half or so. So hopefully,
that's an awesome thing, man. I hope he has a great time.
Yeah, it'll be good. So, all right, final question, and you know this one as well. Genie in the bottle, one wish, and like you say, it can't be for more wishes. What is your one wish going to be?
I wish that my family is taken care of, and that nothing that I do from here on out hurts them. It keeps them from feeling peace and love in their life. Maybe that's more than one wish. How about I wish that my family has a great life and that nothing I do gets in the way of that. I think that is my biggest wish. I'd love to say that I wish it on a broader level because, in a broader absolute sense, I do. I wish for world peace. I wish for everybody to be able to beat their demons or find some sense of comfort in this world. My heart goes out to all the people struggling, especially, we live in California, so many people out in the street. And if, it takes somebody without a heart to not realize what a problem that is. There are lots of things that I could wish for, but I'd say I'll start with the ones I love the most who have been there for me. I hope that they can have a happy, productive, pain-free life, and that I don't bring any hardship on them as a result.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, good. Well, that's the end of the quick nine. Tucker, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you joining us. Jonathan hates to having to miss it. He's off in India traveling with his family. I think he's having more
fun than we are. That sounds amazing. That's some life-changing stuff going on over there. So, Jonathan, safe travels. That sounds like a beautiful, mind-blowing experience.
Yeah, he's loving it and just following pictures and talking to him every now and then. It's a lot of fun. But Tucker, thank you. Check out the book that he and Lisa Cornwell wrote called Troublemaker. He's got more coming. Listen to his podcast, Rappers Don't Golf. Invite him to come play at Bandon. All the things. Michael, thank you very much for making this introduction. But Tucker, thank you for being here. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. And, if anybody wants to reach out and connect, I'm still on Hotmail, just like I've been for 25 years. tuckerbooth@hotmail.com. Inquiries, whatever you got, hit me up there. Happy to take on all comers. So hit me up. I'm out there.
Absolutely. And you can find them on Twitter. Twitter handle, is it just Tucker Booth?
Tucker Dale Booth on Twitter.
Yeah, right.
My middle name, Tucker Dale Booth.
Perfect. Well, for Tucker, for Jonathan, who's around the world, this is Robby. You've been listening to the Whole Story Podcast.